Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Crazy Ex Roommate 66, and it says, my 22 female former roommate 30 male is freaking me out. What should I do? Hi, I'm fudging details for anonymity's sake, but the gist of the story is the same. I'm sorry it's so long. This has been building up for some time. So, I used to live in a house with 5 other people, including John and David. I started dating David sometime last year and subsequently moved out to make our relationship more normal. Around the time David and I started getting close, John started to become more hostile towards me. I believe that John also has an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, and after I made some scathing remarks about drunk drivers, I've lost property and friends due to drunk driving, and I stand by my comments. I think his antipathy towards me deepened. He started making awkward comments about me and David before we officially came out about our relationship. Example, how was your weekend? Bet it was intimate. Just really weird stuff. This all came to a head when the house went on a wine tasting trip at the end of last summer. Everyone got trashed except me and one other girl, as we was, which was crossed out, were driving, and John absolutely blew up in the parking lot in front of everyone. Not just the rest of the house, but also random passers-by who were very bemused, yelling, screaming at me and David, mostly me, saying that I was intolerable, that he was intensely uncomfortable whenever he was in the room with the two of us, that he couldn't take it anymore, and that mine and David's relationship was all he thought and talked about to anyone. He insisted that everyone in the house felt as he did, and that he has been talking to his co-workers about us. He doesn't have many friends, and that everyone agreed. He insisted that we ask the others in the house, as they would agree. They were all shifting uncomfortably during this conversation, as normal people would. I was a little afraid that he would lash out further, and David later told me he thought that John would hit him. John then flipped me off like 500 times, saying fuck you. Naturally, David and I were like, what the fuck, and we all left him at the wine tasting place. His parents lived nearby, and we had driven his car up and drove home together because it was so awkward. After talking to other members of the house, it turned out they had absolutely no problem with David and me hanging out together, and we suspect that everything else he said was also bullshit. Fast forward about a week of me studiously avoiding him. He texts me asking when I'm free so that he can apologize, but I ignore it because it's not my problem. We later corners, literally, I was standing with my back against the wall and he was standing above me on the stairs. It was such a power play. Ugh. Me to non-apologize, saying that he was drunk and he has been stressed out with work lately. He assures me that he's seeing a therapist, which, whatever. Okay, so fast forward a few months, tensions ease up between us. We can tolerate being in the same room together and even occasionally interact in a neutral manner. I mostly ignore him though. I then announce that I'm moving out, and tensions worsen. He can no longer tolerate being in the same room as me, as in my presence seemed to literally repel him. If I walked into a room and stayed for more than 5 seconds, he would leave. I once tried to point out to him that his phone flashlight is on in his pocket, and he snapped at me. I know! I also snapped a little. After 5 months of this bullshit, I felt it was alright, though I do know it's petty, and told him to calm the fuck down. After which he said, never talk to me again. And I was like, okay, so I haven't since. Now, it's been about 2 months since I moved out, and David and I are still dating. I spent the weekend at the house because David and I went to the beach on Saturday, and they had a Westworld viewing party on Sunday. I had a good time hanging out with the house. I'm still friends with everyone there, except John, and I've even gotten to know the new girl who replaced me. She's nice. The other people in the house seem to like me, and David agrees. However, John still exhibited the same weird behavior of not being able to tolerate being in the same room as me, and even escalated it slightly. I was standing in the kitchen talking with another housemate. John walked through the kitchen, greeted the other housemate, and then retired to his room. We continued chatting, when we hear a "fuck off" come from John's bedroom. I'm like, was that directed at me? What the fuck? He was uptight the whole time I was there. not even being able to fully relax. The new girl was like, "You okay?" to him, and he just shook his head, looked at me, and exhaled loudly. He was constantly exhaling loudly, as if my existence physically pained him. I greeted another housemate with some enthusiasm. Due to conflicting schedules, we hadn't seen each other for a while, and he muttered under his breath, "Get the fuck out of here," and left. It's just so bizarre, not behaviour anyone would expect from a 30-year-old man. He's much bigger and stronger than I am, so I'm afraid that if I confront him, he might actually hurt me. David doesn't want to escalate things because he likes the house and doesn't want to move. I think he may underestimate the gravity of the situation, but am I overestimating it? But I'm afraid that this situation may become untenable. I want to keep visiting the house as I have friends there, but John is starting to scare me. Should I contact the landlord, sit down with John and David and talk about it? In my opinion, he seems like fixated on OP. This 30-year-old man who's fixating on a 22-year-old for the better part of a year. And I don't think anybody in this story is treating it as seriously as they should, and it's pretty worrying. He's talking about her relationship to co-workers. He had a public breakdown screaming at her while drunk. He cornered her physically in a stairwell, and now, 2 months after she moved out, he still can't be in the same room as her without muttering "get the fuck out of here" and shouting "fuck off" from his bedroom. It's worrying behavior, and it doesn't seem to be getting better. It seems to be getting more hostile, if anything. And I disagree with David, not wanting to escalate the situation. I know you don't want to trigger him and make him explode or whatever, but at this moment in time, his girlfriend is afraid of physical harm. That's a line. That's not something you can weigh against, keeping a comfortable living situation. It just doesn't work like that. And if I was OP, I know it's almost like punishing herself in some ways. I would stop being around in that house until this is actually addressed, because whether that's through the landlord, through David, telling John to deal with it, whatever it is, because, it's just not worth the risk. But a commenter says to OP, "Sounds like the guy liked you maybe, and then totally had a complete meltdown. Stop going over to the house. Your boyfriend has a choice, to move or stay, but either way, I would not go over there. And if it's a deal breaker for your relationship, then sorry, that sucks, but your safety is more important. Has your boyfriend ever talked to him? Why has he let that happen?" OP says, "Oh god, this seems to be the consensus of the thread. I really don't like the idea of that, but you're all probably right. I've talked to my boyfriend before about this, but I think it was poor communication on my part. That I constantly downplayed how nervous this really made me feel. I've talked to him now and I think he understands. He'll be coming over to my place more now, and I'll only be going over there for large gatherings, or I will definitely not be alone with this dude." Another commenter says, "Ooh boy, dude has so many issues he could open a magazine stand. Out of curiosity, how does he fit in with the rest of the crew? Similar in ages, job/earning ability, life accomplishments, etc. I'm asking because people should be starting to hit their stride by 30. But here he is, aggressive, drinking himself stupid, living in a house share with several other roommates. It's like he's a few years behind. Making the sort of stupid mistakes a guy makes in his early 20s, but not learning from them. This guy's life is slipping away from him, and it is pissing him off, and you're his scapegoat. Lucky you. What triggered it? Who knows? Maybe he had feelings for you, or for David, or he was jealous of you two having a functional relationship. No sign of a girlfriend for him, huh? Or he resented being called out on his irresponsible drinking. So he is scary and drunk and petulantly aggressive. You can let that stop you from going over to visit your boyfriend and friends. Maybe that's what will help them grow the will to kick him out. Probably not. They seem quite passive and maybe also scared of him. So you can either stay away and miss your friends or go over, but do not ever allow yourself to be alone with him. No accidental hallway meetings. Example, get David to help you out. See if you can enlist one or more of the other roommates to act as escorts too. Hopefully John will either be doing something stupid in front of others, forcing them to confront how awful he is and give him the boot, or John will quit the house on his own accord into a fit of pique. One caveat. If you have any sense that John is going to grow physical with you, even with an escort/bodyguard, avoid him, even if it means avoiding your friends. Opie responded saying the house is mid-20s to 30 years old. There is one person in the house who's 30, but he is a recent immigrant, so still getting on his feet in this country. However, rent prices in this area are insane, so it's not uncommon to have roommates into your late 20s. I do agree that he's unstable though. Quoting, they seem quite passive and maybe scared of him. Then says, I think this is exactly right. I think I've managed to piss him off by being a little more outspoken than the others. Yay. Quoting again, but do not ever allow yourself to be alone with him. Then says, I will make more of an effort to do this from now on. David has already told me to stay in his room while he fetches food for us because he is nervous about me being alone with him. I will try to comply. And quotes again, saying one caveat, if you have any sense that John is going to go physical with you, then says, I don't think it's reached that point, but I will certainly do this if it comes to that. Thank you so much for your detailed response. And one more commenter who says, is he physically imposing? Why has everyone let him get away with this? Why has your boyfriend let him get away with this? He's been throwing around fighting words with no consequences. So it was 2 years later that Opie came in with her update and said no one asked for an update, but I thought I'd provide a short one. Shortly after this post, David and I had a sit-down talk in which I said I was no longer comfortable going over to his place. I showed him this post and how he was getting roasted in the comments. He agreed and started coming over to my place more. However, this became more lax with time and laziness, and he started asking me to come over to his house, which I hesitatingly did. Basically, it backslid into how things were before, and he made no real effort to change anything. At no point did David consider moving out, and as far as I know, they're still roommates. It's been a while now, so I honestly can't remember if John ever made an attempt at making an apology. But at any rate, he never made an apology I deemed to be genuine, and he always made me uneasy. No more serious incidents occurred. John never touched me physically. For this, I feel exceedingly fortunate. A few months after I made that post, I started wanting to move away for various reasons, mostly wanting a change of scenery and culture. And I realized that I didn't consider my relationship valuable enough to make me want to stay. That was over a year ago. We broke up, I moved away, and in quarantine I've considered my sexuality and I'm now dating a lovely, thoughtful and supportive woman. My life is much better now, and I see that I was allowing myself to be treated in a very horrible and toxic way. I also see that everyone in the house was, in a way, gaslighting me into thinking that John's abuse wasn't so bad in an effort not to rock the boat. No one at any point made any effort to stand up for me, including my supposed romantic partner, which honestly now disgusts me. I'm not in touch with anyone from that circle anymore, and honestly, good riddance. I'm so relieved that I never have to see any of them again. Anyway, despite being in lockdown and living in a deep existential anxiety, I'm very happy and life is drama-free. Aside from the fact that I still have to come out to my family, lol. Thanks everyone for pushing me in the right direction. And edits, I was not expecting this to blow up the way that it has. David, I know you have a Reddit account. If you're seeing this, I hope you're doing well. John is hella toxic. Good luck with everything. Edit 2, seriously, this response is overwhelming. Thank you all so much for your support and well wishes. I hope all my future coming outs go this well. Someone says, so what was John's deal? Was he gay and in love with David? Opie says, I have no idea. We never had a real conversation about it. A lot of people in the old thread seem to think he was interested in me, which is plausible. I think it may have been a combination of that and him abusing both alcohol and weed. I think good on Opie in this situation. The fact that David was telling you to go back into that place, which you said you were scared of being in, absolutely awful. And just going back to the first part of the post where you was questioning yourself as well, saying things like, maybe I didn't communicate well enough, etc. It was never you. It was just everyone else downplaying the seriousness around you and you suffering because of it. So once again, good on you for getting yourself out of that situation. But what do you guys make of this one? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from Inappropriate Throw, who says, I, 22 female, have a big issue with my boyfriend, 21 male, of 6 months, and his relationship with his best friend, 21 female. I'm going to try and keep this short. They've known each other for 4 years. He told me when we started dating that she was a lesbian. I didn't believe him because she's got a kid. Come on. He then explained that everyone else he's dated left him because of their friendship. I finally met this girl and she was really cool. I'll call her Anne. Anne and I started hanging out one-on-one. Like if my boyfriend was working, we'd go get drinks and talk about stuff. We became friends and then she told me a bit about their history. I'm not a jealous person normally, and I've fooled around with my best friends before, so it didn't really faze me to hear they hooked up at first. I started having issues with my parents and my boyfriend was moving into a new apartment. He asked me to move in with him. I did, and then Anne moved into the same building. She started spending the night at our apartment and it bothered me. She lives across the hall. Why can't she just sleep in her own apartment? Friday was the first day my boyfriend and I had off together, and she called and invited him over. He left me to go be with her. It really bothered me because they were having a naked wine party. I ended up packing my stuff and he came back because our roomie told him I was flipping out. He talked to me about it and said I was being too insecure. TLDR, am I overreacting about my boyfriend and his best friend having a history and no boundaries? Am I wrong for feeling like he puts her before me? What do I do? Naked? Naked wine parties, what the hell is going on? At first, I thought in the UK there's like a brand, I think, called Naked Wines or something. And I thought, oh, maybe they've just ordered a bunch of wines to actually just try out. But they're actually getting in the buff for this party. I mean, what the fuck? Absolutely not. That's not a thing friends do. That's a thing people who are sleeping together do, while trying to technically be able to say nothing happened. There's a whole bunch of red flags in this. I mean, first telling you that she was a lesbian, warning you up front that previous girlfriends have left over this friendship. Now she's conveniently moved into the same building and she sleeps over regularly. I mean, come on, yeah, just be done with this nonsense already. Naked wine parties, but commenter says, it's fine, OP. I have naked wine parties with my friends all the time. OP says, when I say naked wine party, I mean you take your clothes off when you walk in. There were pictures on Facebook of everyone being nude and drinking wine. What? Commenter replies saying, I know what a naked wine party is. Like I said, we have them all the time. Totally normal behavior for someone who's in a relationship. OP says, your sarcasm is really quite helpful. Commenter replies saying, I generally only do it when someone already knows the right answer to drive home how ridiculous any other answer would be. You already know the answer here. Commenter says, am I confused about what a naked wine party is, or did they literally get drunk and naked together? OP says you're not confused, but there were other people there too. Duck Hunter says, that doesn't make it any less weird. OP says, I agree. I think the whole thing is weird and like cheating. He says I'm just being insecure. Commenter says, why weren't you invited? OP says he's trying to preemptively give us space from each other so we don't feel smothered. So he goes off to a naked wine party. Oh, bloody hell. This isn't getting any better, is it? A commenter says to OP, naked wine party? Now you see why no relationship he's had has outlasted his connection with Anne. This is one of those learning moments of your early 20s. When you're closer to 30, you'll be shaking your head at how you ever considered this acceptable for half a moment. Start looking for new roommates or patch things up with your folks because you are a live-in side piece. TLDR, nope, no. The end. OP replied saying, I didn't want to be that controlling, jealous girlfriend, but I don't think it's acceptable. Cookie says, naked wine party, get the hell out of here. There's no way you think that's okay. OP says, I didn't think it was okay. I didn't know that was what they were doing until I got on Facebook. Another commenter says, what the fuck is a naked wine party? The title of it doesn't even sound like it'd be okay to partake in while in a committed relationship. OP says, that's my feeling on it. But when I brought it up, he said he's so desensitized to nudity. Nudity doesn't do anything for him. I called bullshit and he said I was just being insecure. Commenter replies saying then he's being what's known as an arsehole. If that makes you uncomfortable, then you're entitled to your own feelings on matters like naked wine parties. If my fiance went to one, I'd be livid and probably break it off. Most normal people don't get naked and drink wine, which could easily lead to other things. Come on, alcohol plus nudity. This is not acceptable to engage in while in a committed relationship. OP then edits and says, okay, I get it. I'll be packing up and apartment hunting. Thank you all. So OP did come back in and says, I'm 22, they're 21, 6-month relationship. So I said I'd update when I moved out. I want to thank everyone who commented on the original post. You guys gave me a lot of perspective and that helped me phrase the conversation in a more mature way. He and I talked the next day about how their relationship had crossed a lot of lines. I understood that Anne had been around longer than I had, but I wouldn't tolerate that kind of disrespect. We talked for hours. Bottom line, he said he'd stopped talking to her altogether, but I had to tell her why. I told him I was not interested in being the bad guy and giving him a loophole to be a BFF again if/when we broke up. I went back to packing my things and called my dad. My boyfriend went to her apartment, and I called him and dumped him. Then I left. Since then, I've deleted both of them from Facebook. They've both been blowing up my phone, alternating between apologetic and angry. She's accusing me of ruining her best friend's life and their friendship. I guess he's mad at her now. I don't know. I don't care. TLDR, I moved out and broke up with him. They're both mad at me. I don't care. Some of the final comments on this one says, I cannot believe he tried to get you to tell her they couldn't be friends anymore. I mean, I can believe it because he seems like an arsehole, but still the audacity. I'm glad you put your foot down and left. You deserve so much better, and they both deserve each other because of how shitty they are. Opie says, I mean, if I had told her, then he could have gone behind my back until he got bored with our relationship, and then he'd do the same thing to the next girl. Potent says, you let go of a real catch there. How will you ever find someone better? /sarcasm. Funny how he blames his friend for his own shitty behaviour. Am I the only one who wonders whether the doofus was the lesbian friend's baby's daddy? Opie says, no, you are not. I asked him because holy fuck does this kid look like him? But he said they hadn't hooked up until after she was born. Potent replies saying, I wouldn't trust the dude who says he needs personal space to go to naked wine parties with everyone but you. He has no credibility. Opie says, none whatsoever. Doesn't matter at this point because we aren't together. But if she is his kid, he's not a good father. Definitely not someone I'd want to have kids with. I dodged a bullet. Silver linings and all that. Absolutely, Opie did dodge a bullet in this situation. Bloody naked wine parties. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Our next story comes from Adventurous Wash 3201. It says, they made me believe I was in line for a promotion for 6 months to make me work extra when they already promised a position to my colleague. There was a note on here that they suspect that OP is likely in Denmark. I'm assuming that's going to add something to the story, but it says, 6 months ago, my manager went on parental leave and I was put in this role. My manager explicitly said after coming back, he would not resume his role because he didn't enjoy it anymore. We all knew it, so when I got temporarily promoted, they told me I could be offered the position permanently if I performed highly these 6 months. I worked very hard and took a lot of work on, worked overtime and everything. But 2 weeks from my manager's comeback, they still didn't confirm I was getting the promotion, despite me asking many times if I finally earned it. Today, I called my manager on parental leave and asked him what's up and why I didn't get a confirmation, and he told me, oh yeah, this other colleague, hired when I got the position, was promised the position when he signed, but they first said he had to do some work, but when I get back, he was gonna get the job. So he is the one getting the role. I feel so used, also because I worked so hard and delivered way beyond my targets. I don't know how to get revenge. Dearie me. Vanilla Ice says, smile, do your job at 100%, get your parental leave, start looking and give them 2 weeks using your PTO, if you have it. The last week, 6 months of parental leave is awesome by the way. Opie says for me, it's not an issue because my husband makes much more money than me, so I can extend my parental leave up to a year, with the last 6 months unpaid, and my husband wouldn't mind, so I can look for jobs in these 6 months. And while on parental leave, they can't fire me. And if I come back, they still have to give me 3 months notice period, so I'm good. Also in the position now, they are paying me 25% less of the guy I'm substituting, despite me having higher qualifications. So maybe it's best they don't give it to me because they probably wouldn't pay me what I deserve. Also, I'm such a loser and an idiot for trusting them and accepting the temporary position for such little money. This quick says, don't be so hard on yourself. Remember, a lot of management is paid to be that way. They're paid to be cheap and sleazy. I can say this with confidence because I've been exactly where you are. I literally gave a company something like 2,700 plus extra hours in the span of 2 years. I didn't get overtime for it and I didn't get a promotion for it even though they said it would be. On top of that, I was supposed to be promoted upon taking that job, and bait and switched me from the very get-go. So I literally busted my ass for 3 years, and it was all a bait and switch. Commenter says, be exactly on time, leave exactly on time, do what exactly you're supposed to do and nothing more. Don't volunteer for any other work, don't work overtime, and meanwhile, find another job because this one does not value you. When you find something else, quit without notice. Opie says, I will. I'm actually due to be in parental leave in 6 months myself, so I will just put my head down and make sure I get my parental leave allowance. The Honest Liar says, and do not under any circumstances train or help the new person doing the job. Say, sorry, I'm not qualified enough to do the job, so I'm not qualified to train or help you. So it was 10 days later that OP came in with their update and said, well, yesterday my manager confirmed that I indeed was not getting the job. But luckily, HR told me that I'm pregnant and will be practically impossible to fire me, and she won't allow them to do it. So I decided that as of today, although they did not announce any of the news yet, I'm in my new chill very hard era. I'm going to work when I feel like it. I'm going to do what I feel like, and I will go on sick leave if I feel like it because my doctor anyways thinks all this stress is bad for my health. I'll talk to HR on Monday and make sure I 100% understand all my rights and make sure I take 100% advantage of them. This is not good news, but I'm going to make lemonades out of these lemons. By the way, I was very sick in the fall and the doctor wanted to give me 2 weeks of sick leave because she thought my health was not good. I refused because my dumb self thought, work. Well, let me tell you, that ain't going to happen again. A commenter said to OP, holy moly, consult an employment attorney. HR is not your friend, and I would be so much more suspicious of an HR person who tried to convince me otherwise. OP says my union confirmed that it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, for them to fire me, and it would cost them a huge amount of money in lawsuits. Well, I have free legal advice and representation with my union. I really think it's very unlikely that I get fired, because I still am actually very useful. And whatever, if I get fired, it's not a big deal. I'd have a big 4-month severance, unemployment benefits, and luckily, my husband makes enough to sustain us. We also have other very stable sources of monthly income besides our salaries. I do not work because I need to work. I work because I want to. But now, I'm going to turn this one straight to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. Truly, it's absolutely amazing. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.